wanted to change the world, but it was more about. So doing these little things really made me happy. I wanted to do something that made me and people around me happy, and just putting a smile on somebody's face made me really, really happy. I did not want children to lose their childhood. I did not want them to be trained as robots, or I was just really mechanical creatures. I wanted them. I I didn't want them to get into that competition so soon, trying to be their own best. And I wanted them to express themselves, just feel free and safe and happy. That's all I had in my mind. Happy classroom.
I just wanted a lot of madness in the classroom, like doing things in a completely mad way, in a completely off-beaten way. That was something that was always in my mind. Like, for example, just bringing a dead fish to the classroom. And that day in class was madness. Everybody, they were like, oh, fish! They were holding their noses, but at the same time, they would want to come close and touch it. And I'm like, right now, this is excitement. This is craziness. I really want to know about this fish, even though it's dead. They still remember that lesson. And that just got me thinking that if they can feel excitement and if they feel happy doing something, they will remember it. It's basic psychology. If there is a spike of an emotion in your head, you will remember your thinking, what you were thinking at that point of time, for a really long time. And as a teacher, the belief got reinforced that when somebody is really excited about something, that is when they're ready to learn. And the responsibility lies on the teacher to make it exciting for the students, right? You can say, oh, we're going to do something interesting. Are you ready? Yeah, you will have their attention for a split second. But then what do you do after that? Do you let them do something? Or do you write simple sentences on the board and tell them to fill in the blanks? If a teacher is coming with the right intent, with the intent of making children have fun, learning will follow. So we were heartbroken when we found out that, you have to teach grade 2 now. I was teaching grade 2 and she got grade 3.
Both of us didn't know how to communicate to grade that tiny a bunch. When we'd imagined classrooms, I remember having this conversation where we were talking about, I thought I'll teach literature and history in the classroom. I can't connect with these children. I don't understand what they say. They don't understand me. There is no relationship. Eventually things change.
Yeah, I think, and we've discussed this multiple times, that now in retrospect, I don't think we would have had it any other way.
Yeah.
Because just to, have fun with those kids and making them learn, we had to learn and unlearn so many things.
Yes.
For the longest time, we used to think how consequences will work for everybody, right? But consequences don't work for children. They don't work for anybody. You just talk with an intent to understand, and things will fall into place.
Both of us, we wanted to give them so much information about everything.
Yeah.
And finally to coming to a space where we're withholding a little bit of information because they don't need to know everything when they're so young. Right now is that base that they're forming, and at this point, if you're conceptually right, if you're conceptually strong, nothing that comes later is going to bother you. They're also naturally intuitive about things. So teaching a child grammar or teaching a child math is pretty flawed when I'm giving them steps. Steps were there, but only to concretize learning, not to teach something. Children are very natural in making patterns. They will very naturally create a pattern between things, and that's how they learn grammar, or that's how they learn math, or anything for that matter. Strongly leveraging what a child knows was a big part of teaching them anything, and not thinking that children come as blank slates. They never do. Yeah. They come with a lot of information.
The class culture that the two classes have right now, a big reason for that is also the kind of relationship that the both of us share. Like every day after school, we'd come and say, I did this today and it worked really well. So, and that's when the other person thinks that, I'm going to try that again.
We were both very observant about our kids. When she will mimic a child to the T, just the way the child is speaking or the way the expression is there, she's so minutely observing every little thing that the child is doing. And I, on the other hand, I'm more about why is the child doing that. So just working on that together a lot with all of those 70 kids worked wonders. All of us as teachers co-created the vision of our school. We spent the day painting about what do you want for your children? What would this school look like? What would their best self for a child look like? After that, we all came together and we debriefed what it meant, and where finally the school vision of to create substantive individuals came about, where because we wanted our children to be, we didn't want them to be just critical thinkers or just people who did things. We wanted them to be empathetic, we wanted them to communicate, we wanted them to be all of those things.
Okay, grit. Okay, empathy. What does that all mean? That all the gamut of the values that we talk about in TFI, they mean the one word that really rings a bell in my head is just being substantive. Right? It's not necessary to have an empathy chart in your classroom. It's necessary to practice what you preach, right? How will you as a teacher show empathy to the child? I think the children have started reporting incidences of bullying, and they've started voicing their feelings, and they started expressing if they don't like something that's happened. And they understand it in terms of taking a stand. Shaista was the transition in chat, and she's really bold, right? And when she gets angry, she makes sure everybody feels that she's angry. So she would say, 5 seconds, keep your books inside. You know, the anger will come on her face if somebody's not looking at her. The children, they sort of sense that that's not okay, and they voiced it out in the circle time. They said, Didi, we want to change the transition in charge. I asked them why. Because she speaks rudely. That's when we had a vote. Okay, who all want to, who all think that we should change the transition in charge? Most of the class said yes. And Shaista then realized that, okay, I know what the problem is. She sulked for a while. But then she saw that it's not only coming from the teacher, but everybody is saying that.
And then suddenly just feeling very responsible for others. I'm not responsible only for my own behavior, but for everything that happens around me and for everybody who is with me. I'm responsible for their growth as well. And now that they're growing, it's not enough to be heard by a teacher. It's more important to be heard by the class, by my peer, or by the person with whom I had this problem.
So in second year, it was more focused around love for literacy. So after we sort of decided that, okay, we know how to have fun while learning. Let's see how we can have fun in learning English and reading. Because for them it's different. They come from a certain context, and it's best to acknowledge that at home they do not have somebody who speaks in English, right? They do not have access to books. Literature circle was a step that our school had taken. However, the clarity in terms of how it was sort of to be followed wasn't there. And that's when the research played out for me, and I read a few papers that said that when children engage in a dialogue about a text, they comprehension sort of automatically follows, because when they're speaking about it, speaking is evident of understanding and comprehension. And from there the literature circles were born out. From there the whole idea of giving feedback, having ships, it's interesting, and everybody is responsible for making your ship sail or wobble or sink. I definitely learn best by researching. My research would be as specific as pronouns for grade 3, right? Going really into the details, and not just research for pedagogy, but also research regarding child psychology and how children learn, which also helped me change my bent of mind. So there's something called as the assessment of lagging skills and unsolved problems. It says that children or even adults lack certain skills, and as a teacher you need to identify those skills that are not there and start introducing them. John Holt, I read 2 books, How Children Learn and How Children Fail, both classics in child development. And I could connect as a teacher to the anecdotal notes that he had made. A child said something, and he or she said a word, mispronounced a word. But instead of correcting the child that, it's not this, it's this, just you yourself as an adult pronouncing it correctly. You as an adult, you're the embodiment of a lot of knowledge, and you just present it the way it is. And the children, being thoroughly absorbent creatures, they will take it away from you. Which is from where the whole aspect of calmness came into the picture. That if I am calm, if I don't react to a situation, they will learn not to do it. So a lot of these nuances got developed over time.
I'm majorly motivated by clarity. I was pretty clueless on how do I teach phonics to a child. How do I teach a child how to break a sound in their head? What does that mean? Try to identify who could do that best, and for me it was the kindergarten teachers, because they were forming that base for the children. Just watching people and talking to people makes me learn in so many ways. So just identifying the human resources around me. All of these conversations and every person that I've been with has helped me incorporate so many things in my classroom, which is why the happiest moment of every day in my classroom is getting feedback from my children.
I've never learned so much in my life, ever. These 2 years have been so compact with immense learning. Something that Heraclitus, a philosopher, said, that when you step inside that river, you sort of change, because the river runs its own course. and the moment you take the dip inside it, you change as well, because the river sort of influences you. So TFI has been that river for me. And I've also learned that learning happens only when you allow yourself to learn.